Traditionally, clinical studies are sponsor-led, meaning led by companies like Theralase, which are expensive, they're hard to set up, they involve a lot of moving parts. With this is new press release this morning, why that's interesting is you can now work on more practitioner-led um, clinical studies.
All right, welcome back inside our proactive newsroom. Joining me now is Roger Dumoulin-White. He's the CEO of Theralase Technologies. And Roger, it's good to have you back again. How are you?
Great, Steve. Thanks for having me on the show.
Hey, Roger, a super interesting news release out today from the company talking about your lead drug candidate, Rutherin. That's just one that you have, right? You have more than that.
Well, we actually have two. So there's Ruvidar, which is used for bladder cancer. So that's a intravesical instillation. So you instill that into the bladder, let it absorb into the urothelial cancer cells, and then you void the bladder, you fill it with water, and then you use fiber optics to activate it. So that's an intravesical installation. We have another formulation called Rutherin. So we put some other excipients with it, some other chemicals, and we can now inject that into the body. So what happens with this is we're combining Ruvidar, which is the intravesical drug, with transferrin, which is a glycoprotein in everyone's body, which is used to transport iron. Cancer cells have a much higher absorption or much greater thirst for iron than normal cells because of their increased metabolic rate, which is what makes them so dangerous. So by combining Ruvidar with transferrin, this drug, Rutherin, can now hunt anywhere in the body and localize to cancer cells. So it's absorbed into the cancer cells. So now once it's inside the cancer cells, what you want to do is stimulate that drug, Rutherin, to produce what's called reactive oxygen species, or ROS. Why you do that is they're very volatile chemicals formed from oxygen and water, and they cause oxidative stress. It's like a bowling ball inside a china shop. So the cancer cell is the china shop. You've got this bowling ball, which is this reactive oxygen species, and it just does all sorts of damage, destroys the cell, kills the cancer cell. So by activating that Rutherin molecule, traditionally we've done it with light. So light is great, it activates it, great for bladder cancer. When you get into more deep-seated cancers like brain cancer, lung cancer, we've been looking at activating it with radiation, so with X-rays. Penetrate through the body, great for activating it. But where this whole press release this morning goes is we can activate it with a very common drug, metformin, which is, I think, one of the most widely prescribed drugs for diabetes in the world. And here we can activate Rutherin with a common drug. So where this goes is instead of being in a hospital environment, operating room environment, you can now use an IV drip to administer Rutherin into the body, and then a standard over-the-counter, or it's actually prescription, drug for diabetes, metformin, can activate it. So it opens up a lot of possibilities.
Yeah. Are there possibilities for other uses as well? You mentioned obviously with this going ahead with metformin that's been on the market, I think, since 1994. So will there now be research and potentially using other things as well?
Yes, I think that what this is showing is the versatility and the utility of Rutherin in the sense that you can now put this drug in the body. It'll localize to cancer. Is it brain cancer? Is it lung cancer? Is it pancreatic cancer? It doesn't matter. It'll localize to it. And now you've got all these different ways of activating it. So you can use light, you can use radiation. Now you can use common drugs to activate it. So that's what opens up the utility. Cancer is generally an older person's disease. That's what it's traditionally been known as.
Right.
So when you get older, it's a little bit harder to get around. Not everybody lives right downtown, right beside a major hospital. So they have to travel in, they have to have someone take them. It's a lot of arduous activities. So here the idea is that you could turn around and have a doctor or a nurse or a practitioner come to their home or to wherever they are, treat them with Rutherin via IV drip, and then just administer metformin. So this could be all happening in their home. Traveling to the hospital could be something that's not required for their disease state. They can always have activation of with radiation if required, but they may not have to depending on their disease state.
Right. Where do you go with this now, Roger? Obviously, there's some pretty interesting things that you've mentioned in the news release, but obviously some further analysis has to be done.
Well, I think where this goes is traditionally clinical studies are sponsor-led, meaning led by companies like Theralase, which are expensive, they're hard to set up, they involve a lot of moving parts. With this is new press release this morning, why that's interesting is you can now work on more practitioner-led clinical studies, meaning that practitioners who are interested in a very specific disease state, maybe it's an orphan disease, maybe it's a very special cancer, what they can do is they can use our drug, Rutherin, and they can use a common drug like metformin to activate it. So they can do this very, very quickly and very easily. So I think it opens up a lot of possibilities for treating numerous cancers that don't have to be led by Theralase. Obviously, they've got to go through the regulatory approvals and all the necessary checks and balances, but it opens up an opportunity for PIs or practitioners that are interested in that space for running their own studies.
Wow. Well, it's going to be fascinating to continue to follow this story for sure. Roger, thanks so much. Good update and really interesting news release out today. And we're glad we had a chance to get you on and describe it all for us.
Always my pleasure, Steve. Take care.
All right, you as well. Roger Dumoulin-White, the CEO of Theralase Technologies.